Chapter 3709. Ao Lingxiao, did you see who was looking for Ying? When Ziren quickly asked. As long as they knew who did it, they would be able to find a breakthrough. Naturally, they would be able to find out who lured Shangguan Ying away. Ao Lingxiao frowned and recalled the specific situation at the time. He said, I didn't care too much at the time. I just looked at him. I only remembered that it was a man, but I didn't see him clearly. If he didn't know Shangguan Ying, he wouldn't have paid attention at all. Who did you offend in Penglai Palace? As long as you list these people one by one, you will be able to guess. This kind of thing must be done by an enemy. Listening to Ao Lingxiao's words, Di Beichen and Ziren looked at each other. There was a hint of helplessness in their anxious expressions. It's precisely because we thought of all the enemies but still couldn't figure out who it was. Ao Lingxiao was stunned. Ah? You don't know who it is? If we knew who it was, we wouldn't be running around like headless flies. Ziren's face was extremely ugly. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. While he was thinking about who the other party might be, he couldn't help but think about the various situations that might have happened to Shangguan Ying. He only felt that he was completely confused and couldn't think calmly at all. Di Beichen was relatively calm. The other party used me and Ziren to lure Ying out. This means that the other party didn't intend to attack me and Ziren. If this conspiracy wasn't directed at Ying, then it was directed at Hong Zhuang and Ying. Since we came to Penglai Palace, the four of us have always acted together. Even if we provoked an enemy, it was the four of us who provoked them together. So, I can't figure out who would choose to attack Ying. Hearing this, Ao Lingxiao also understood. Indeed, the four of you have always acted together. It is indeed strange that only Shangguan Ying is missing. What about Bailey Hongzhuang? Maybe she knows something. Hong Zhuang is currently in closed-door cultivation. We can't rashly disturb her before she comes out. Otherwise, if any accident happens, the consequences will be very serious. Indeed. Ao Lingxiao nodded. But you don't have any clues now. How are you going to find Shangguan Ying? Di Beichen's expression was grave and complicated. There's nothing we can do at the moment. We can only ask around if anyone has seen Ying. As long as someone sees it, we'll be able to identify the opponent. Time was of the essence. No one knew what kind of situation Ying was in. If they were late, no one knew what would happen. Ao Lingxiao, can you help us ask around? Di Beichen rarely asked others for help, but in this situation, it was obviously impossible to rely on just the few of them. No problem. Ao Lingxiao nodded without hesitation. Let's split up and search for clues. I believe someone will notice. Thank you. Di Beichen looked deeply at Ao Lingxiao. He knew that Ao Lingxiao usually acted alone and wouldn't intervene in this kind of thing. Chapter 3710. Ziren, in my opinion, in this situation we need to find some helpers. Otherwise, just the three of us won't be enough. Di Beichen said, You first ask the people around here. I will go find Senior Brother Ren and the others to help us look. Okay, Beichen, you must be quick. Ziren's voice had become hoarse at some point. His bright eyes were dim and depressed, like a person on the verge of death. This was the first time Di Beichen had seen Ziren like this. Shangguan Ying had been with Ziren since they were young. Di Beichen was very clear about their previous feelings. If something really happened to Shangguan Ying, what would Ziren look like? Di Beichen didn't dare to think about it. Di Beichen clenched his fists under his sleeves. No matter who the other party was, this action had really touched their reverse scale. When Ren Ziheng and the others heard the news of Shangguan Ying's disappearance, everyone's faces were filled with shock. Ying is missing? Ren Zimei's face was full of disbelief. This afternoon, Di Beichen and Shangguan Ying had specially come to say goodbye to them. Who would have thought that Shangguan Ying would mysteriously disappear at this time? The other party actually used you to lure Shangguan Ying away instead of taking the initiative to find trouble. This situation is a bit complicated. Renziheng frowned. At this time, he was very calm. It seems that this matter is not easy to handle. The other party obviously used their brains, which also proves that they are serious. As soon as he said this, Di Baichen and the others understood what he meant. Today, they had just received special permission from the palace master to become inner hall disciples. But on this day, something happened to Shangguan Yingying. If the other party directly came to find trouble, it would undoubtedly attract everyone's attention. It would also arouse the dissatisfaction of the palace master. Therefore, the other party deliberately lured Shangguan Yingying away. In this way, if Shangguan Yingying died outside, there would be no evidence, and no one would be able to associate her with anyone else. For them to go through so much trouble to set up such a trap, it was enough to see that the other party did not want to scare them. In that case, junior sister Shangguan is really in danger. Chu Jinfeng's face darkened. Junior sister Bailey and the others are now famous in the Penglai Palace. The other party actually chose to make a move at this time. They are really bold. Do you think it could be Duan Huali? Di Baichen shook his head. It can't be Duan Huali. If he wanted to target someone, he would target me and Ziren. It's impossible for him to target Yingying. Is he trying to use Yingying to lure you out? No, if he wanted to lure us out, he would have already sent someone to inform us. However, it has been so long and we haven't received any news at all. If that's the case, things are complicated. Renziheng's face also showed a difficult expression. However, I can be sure of one thing. This time, it must be an inner hall disciple. An outer hall disciple definitely doesn't have such courage. Think carefully. Did you offend any inner hall disciple? Chapter 37:11. That's strange. Then who else would make a move against you? When Ziren lowered his head, and his eyes flickered with dense contemplation. He seemed to be unable to figure out exactly where this problem came from. Chu Jinfeng frowned and said, "Since we don't have any clues now, let's ask around to see if anyone else noticed that junior sister Shangguan went in that direction. After all, every second we delay will put junior sister Shangguan in more danger." In the next second, everyone didn't delay any longer and immediately scattered to ask around. Renziheng and the others immediately called out the cultivators who had a good relationship with them to help them find Shangguan Yingying's traces. When everyone knew that they were helping Di Baichen and the others, they were a little surprised, but they were still very happy. After all, the status of Di Baichen and the others was completely different from before. If they could build a good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang, it would also be beneficial for them. If they didn't have enough points, they might be able to buy some healing medicine from Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the palace master said that the healing medicine could be exchanged with points in the future, he didn't forbid Bailey Hongzhuang from making it. For everyone, it was no different from getting it through 2 channels. Originally, everyone was still thinking about how to get closer to Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't expect that the opportunity would come knocking on their door. For a time, the quiet inner hall became lively. In a short period of time, everyone already knew what had happened. Have you heard? Shangguan Yingying just became an inner hall disciple and disappeared. It's really unexpected. I don't know who did it, but they can't wait. Now, many people are helping to look for her. I guess there's no point in looking for her now. If the other party wanted to take Shangguan Yingying's life, Shangguan Yingying would have already reported to the underworld after such a long time. When Ziren, who was anxiously looking for Shangguan Yingying, heard this sentence and his eyes turned even redder. He immediately rushed up and pulled the other person's collar. What did you say? I dare you to say that again. That person obviously did not expect when Ziren to do such a thing. Just as he was about to get angry, he saw when Ziren's eyes that were like a trapped beast. The despair and killing intent in his eyes could topple mountains and overturn seas, as if it could drown him in an instant. The man couldn't help but be stunned. Looking at Ziren like this, he was actually speechless. Di Baichen noticed the conflict between Ziren and the other party. He quickly rushed over and said, "I'm sorry, he's just too worried. This damned fellow actually said that Ying is dead." When Ziren said angrily, "It's just nonsense," Di Baichen hurriedly said, "Ziren, I believe that the other party is not trying to lure the snake out of its hole just to deal with Ying alone, so we still have hope." At this moment, Ren Ziheng rushed over and said, "We found the person who gave Shangguan Ying the news." As soon as he said this, Ziren and Di Baichen's eyes lit up. They quickly asked, "Where is that person?" "I just got the news from others. Let's go and take a look together." As he spoke, when Ziren had already rushed in the direction that Ren Ziheng had pointed out. Chapter 37:12. Soon Di Baichen and the others found Pan Yun. Pan Yun obviously did not expect that a group of cultivators would suddenly come looking for him, and could not help but be stunned. "Pan Yun, did you look for junior sister Shangguan in the afternoon?" Ren Ziheng recognized Pan Yun, so he took the initiative to ask. Hearing this, Pan Yun was still a little stunned and could not help but ask, "What are you doing?" "Since you went to look for junior sister Shangguan, she has gone missing. Now we are all looking for her." Ren Ziheng said, "Seeing that we have some friendship, you should tell us about this matter. Tell us quickly. What is your purpose of luring her out?" Ziren's eyes were fixed on Pan Yun. That terrifying gaze seemed to want to cut Pan Yun into pieces. Pan Yun wanted to refute, but after seeing Ziren and the others' stance, he swallowed the words he wanted to say. "Actually, I don't know anything. I just met someone outside today. He gave me some spirit stones and said that he was not a disciple of Penglai Palace and could not enter Penglai Palace. He asked me to help inform Shangguan Ying and Bailey Hongzhuang that Di Baichen and Ziren were in danger outside. I don't know what is going on, but that person looked very anxious, so I helped to pass on the message." Pan Yun's expression was a little innocent as he looked at Di Baichen and Ziren in confusion. "It seems that the two of you are fine." As soon as these words came out, Di Baichen and the others could not help but look at each other. They did not expect such a situation. "Pan Yun, are you telling the truth?" Ren Ziheng asked again. Pan Yun frowned slightly. "I have never had any interaction with them. It is not worthwhile to tell such a lie to deceive people." "Then did you see what the other party looked like?" Di Baichen asked. Pan Yun shook his head. "The other party was wearing a cloak and his entire person was covered. I couldn't see clearly. Furthermore, the other party only wanted me to help pass on a message and gave me a sufficient reward. I didn't care about those things at all. You haven't figured out anything yet. Why are you spreading such fake news?" Ziren's eyes were extremely gloomy. He thought that he had finally found a breakthrough, but he did not expect the other party to be so secretive that they could not find any clues at all. Seeing Ziren start to question him, Pan Yun's face turned ugly. "This kind of thing is just a coincidence. Who would think so much about it?" Pan Yun's face turned cold. "I only told you the details of this matter because of my relationship with Ren Ziheng. Don't go too far." Seeing that Pan Yun also started to get angry, Ren Ziheng hurriedly spoke out. "Junior apprentice sister Shangguan went missing. Junior apprentice brother one is like this because he was too anxious. You mustn't be calculative with him. After all, junior apprentice sister Shangguan is the most important person to him. If something happened to the most important person to you, your attitude would not be much better." Hearing this, Pan Yun's face was still a little ugly, but in the end, he did not say anything. "Pan Yun, help me think carefully. Is there any details that you can remember from the other party? We are really in a hurry now." Ren Ziheng's face was full of worry. They had been searching together for a long time. Currently, Pan Yun was the only clue. Chapter 37:13. Looking at Ren Ziheng's anxious look, Pan Yun sighed, but still shook his head. "I really didn't pay too much attention to the details. The other party was wearing a cloak. Obviously he didn't want others to recognize his identity. If he did it intentionally, how could I have seen it? Hearing this, Ren Ziheng also knew that Pan Yun was telling the truth and said helplessly, "Then I'll have to bother you. Junior brother D, let's go." "Alright." D. Baichen nodded and pulled Wen Xiren out of the house. All the clues were cut off at this moment. As for the cultivator wearing a cloak that Pan Yun mentioned, no matter how much they asked around, they still couldn't get any information. An indescribable sense of despair and worry shrouded Xiren and D. Baichen. After waiting for so long, there was still no news at all. The other party also didn't ask them to do anything. They were afraid that it was really a disaster. The sky gradually brightened. D. Baichen and the rest searched for an entire night, and everyone was a little disappointed. Xiren seemed to have been possessed. He continued to search everywhere, unwilling to give up even a glimmer of hope. "Junior brother D, we've asked around everywhere we could, but there was no news at all. I'm afraid the situation is really bad." Ren Ziheng's voice was a little troubled. For the entire night, all his friends had helped to search, but there was no news at all. Although no one was willing to say the result, everyone was already well aware of it. D. Baichen's face was very ugly. "I understand, senior brother Ren. Sorry to trouble you. We didn't do anything, and we also couldn't find junior sister Shangguan. The most important thing now is junior brother Wen. He doesn't look good." Ren Ziheng patted D. Baichen's shoulder, shook his head and sighed. "Sigh," D. Baichen nodded, his deep eyes flashing with a persistent light. "We'll continue to search. After all, if he's alive, we want to see him. If he's dead, we want to see his corpse. As long as there's a glimmer of hope, we won't give up. We will also search with you. I believe we will find some clues." When Xiren understood D. Baichen and the others' persistence very well. If it were anyone else, they would not choose to give up at this time. No one would give up until the very last moment. Ren Zimei and Chu Jinfeng were also trying their best to find out more information. "This matter is really strange. Junior sister Shangguan did not offend anyone in the inner palace. It doesn't make sense for the other party to quietly take her away. Junior sister Shangguan and the others have always moved together. If there is an opponent, it should be the opponent of the four of them. Do you think that the other party wants to defeat us one by one?" The light in Chu Jinfeng's eyes suddenly changed as he said. Ren Zimei was stunned. She couldn't help but look at Chu Jinfeng. If the situation was really like this, then it would be a little terrifying in the evening. The red clouds filled the sky. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly opened her eyes. Her pitch-black phoenix eyes flashed with a trace of joy. "The effect of this spiritual cloud fruit is really good. My mental strength has improved a lot." During this period of time, the slow improvement of her mental strength had worried her. Now, with this spiritual cloud fruit, this problem had been solved. It seemed that in the future, she would have to pay more attention to looking for heavenly treasures that could improve her mental strength. "Congratulations, Master." Chapter 37:14. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Now we can set off for the magic training tower with a peace of mind." Yes. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door, she found that D. Baichen and the others were not there. She couldn't help but feel puzzled. Why aren't they here? Slowly walking out of the residence, Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about where D. Baichen and the others went when Ao Lingxiao noticed the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang. He quickly rushed over and said, "Junior sister Bailey, you finally came out of seclusion." Seeing that the always cold Ao Lingxiao actually took the initiative to talk to her, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes couldn't help but become more puzzled. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "Something big has happened," Ao Lingxiao quickly said. "Junior sister Shangguan has been missing since yesterday afternoon. Until now, there has been no news at all." Following Ao Lingxiao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's face suddenly changed. Her dark eyes shot out a terrifying light. "What did you say? Ying is missing?" Noticing the sudden burst of aura from Bailey Hongzhuang, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but be stunned. His heart was filled with deep surprise. At that moment, he was actually shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang's aura. That's right. Now everyone is helping to search. It's just that we don't know who did it. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyelids drooped. A figure appeared in her mind at the first moment, Chu Yunyao. She didn't know that her actions were definitely done by Chu Yunyao. However, her intuition told her that it must be Chu Yunyao. Where are Bei Chen and the others now? They are now outside the Penglai Palace. You can find them if you go. Without waiting for Ao Lingxiao to finish speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang had already disappeared from his sight in the blink of an eye. Bei Chen. Noticing Di Beichen's figure, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately called out. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's voice, Di Beichen and Wen Xiren's eyes lit up. They quickly came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Hongzhuang, you're out of seclusion? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Yes, I heard that Ying has disappeared. What's going on? Things are like this. Di Beichen told Bailey Hongzhuang everything that had happened before and then said, We thought about it, but we couldn't find out who did it. Did you offend anyone yesterday? Are you saying that the other party used you to lure Ying out? Of S's and of Hongzhuang's, Bailey Hongzofyi. That's right. Di Beichen nodded. The other party came prepared. I'm afraid that Ying was taken away after leaving Penglai Palace. When Xiren looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with burning eyes. Hongzhuang, do you know who did it? Looking at Xiren in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be shocked. She had never seen Wen Xiren so depressed and desperate. It was a kind of despair that came from the bones. Only the last glimmer of hope remained. Once it was destroyed, it would be a bottomless abyss. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I thought of someone. Who? Di Beichen and Wen Xiren's expression changed. They hadn't found any information because they couldn't find a suspect. Since Bailey Hongzhuang had an idea, they had one more clue. Chapter 37:15. Chu Yunyao. Di Beichen frowned. Who is this? When Xiren and the others, who had rushed over after hearing the news, could not help but be stunned when they heard Bailey Hongzhuang mention the name Chu Yunyao. They asked in surprise, It's actually Chu Yunyao? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yesterday afternoon, I met her when I went to the resource hall with Ying. At that time, Ying helped me find the Cloud Spirit Fruit, and that Chu Yunyao also wanted the Cloud Spirit Fruit, so she forced Ying to give it to her. Ying did not agree, and a conflict broke out between the two sides, but in the end, Ying and I still came back. So that's how it is. Everyone immediately understood. No wonder they could not think of a possible candidate. It turned out that it was Chu Yunyao, who had a conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang yesterday afternoon. It's just a Cloud Spirit Fruit. I didn't expect this Chu Yunyao to be so calculative. Di Beichen frowned, his eyes covered with a layer of haze. This kind of conflict could be said to be very normal between cultivators. He did not expect that the other party would want to take Shangguan Ying's life for this kind of thing, and her actions were so fast. From the looks of it, that Chu Yunyao probably wanted to lure you and Ying out together, so that she could retrieve the Cloud Spirit Fruit along the way. It's just that she didn't expect you to go into closed-door training after you returned, and only Ying went over alone. Renzime said. Bailey Hongzhuang's face revealed a deep sense of guilt. This matter was completely caused by me. If I hadn't gone into closed-door training as soon as I came back, this wouldn't have happened. This matter is not something you can expect. Di Beichen comforted. Senior Apprentice Brother Ren, do you know where Chu Yunyao lives? When Xiren hurriedly asked. Now that they knew who the culprit was, they naturally couldn't delay any longer. Ren Ziheng nodded. I know, follow me. In the next second, everyone walked in the direction of the inner hall, but in the process of walking, Ren Ziheng could not help but remind everyone. This Chu Yunyao is not a person to be trifled with. Her strength is also very outstanding in the inner hall. Although we have guesses now, we have no evidence. If we question her like this, I'm afraid she won't admit it. Yes, although I'm not familiar with Chu Yunyao, I have some understanding of her. This woman is very arrogant. As long as she likes something, she must get it. In addition, her sister's strength is very strong. Ordinary people are not willing to provoke them. It's very troublesome. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were sharp. Then in your opinion, doesn't this seem like something Chu Yunyao would do? Hearing this, Ren Ziheng and the others looked at each other and nodded. It's possible. Yingying. You is. You. You. Her. Be. Ease. No matter who it is, if they dare to touch my Yingying, they will die. Xiren's cold voice sounded as if it came from hell. It was cold without any temperature, and the hidden killing intent made people feel a chill from the bottom of their hearts. Ren Ziheng and others looked at Xiren in horror. They could feel the deep hatred in Xiren's heart. It was so terrifying that it made people shudder. Chapter 37:16. Senior Brother Ren, do you know how strong Chu Yunyao is? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Ren Ziheng. This Chu Yunyao actually dared to attack Yingying. Now that such a long time had passed, she didn't know how Yingying was doing. If something happened to Yingying, Bailey Hongzhuang subconsciously looked at Xiren. If something happened to Yingying, then she would definitely not forgive herself. Now what she hoped most was that Yingying was not killed, but no matter what, she and Chu Yunyao were irreconcilable. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's question, Ren Ziheng understood that Bailey Hongzhuang and her party were planning to fight Chu Yunyao head-on. This was really a battle to the death. Junior sister Bailey, Chu Yunyao is very strong. I advise you not to be her enemy. This is not good for you at all. Do you think this situation is possible? Xiren's cold voice sounded again. Ren Ziheng was stunned, and Chu Jinfeng and others looked a little helpless, and then showed a look of understanding. If I understand correctly, her cultivation should have reached the 9th level of the Purple Realm, and her sister Chu Yunshang seems to be stronger. It is because of this that they can be so unscrupulous. I know that your talent is amazing, but as far as the current situation is concerned, you are still not their opponent. Even if you really want to be enemies, I advise you to avoid the edge for the time being. It is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. I believe that you will succeed in the future. After understanding Chu Yunyao's failure, the hearts of Di Beichen and others couldn't help but sink. An inner palace disciple was different from an outer palace disciple. That was the true strength of an outer palace disciple. Wanting to fight and defeat an inner palace disciple was not an easy task. Moreover, the gap between them seemed to be unusually large. My big brother is right. Chu Yunshang still has a sweetheart in the Penglai Palace. Her strength is also extremely strong. Once this conflict is made, it is equivalent to poking a hornet's nest. Temporary patience is the best choice. Ren Zimei couldn't help but remind. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were gloomy to the extreme, and her voice was cold to the bone. So what if they are strong? Offending them was the same as poking a hornet's nest? It's best if she didn't do it. As long as she did, I'll make her understand what it means to poke a hornet's nest. Bailey Hongzhuang's cold voice was powerful and resonant. Her eyes were filled with anger. Anyone who dared to touch the people she cared about, she would not let them have a good time. Indeed, in terms of strength, they weren't a match for Chu Yunyao and the others, but in terms of charisma, she was confident that she would absolutely not be inferior to Chu Yunyao and the others. As Bailey Hongzhuang's words fell, Ren Ziheng and the others couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, but they quickly reacted. Junior Sister Bailey, if we use your medical skills, this is indeed possible, Chu Jinfeng said. He believed that many cultivators would be happy to receive a favor from a top-notch doctor. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally stopped. Junior Brother D, the building in front is where Chu Yunyao lives. Ren Ziheng said. Di Baichen glanced ahead. Just as Ren Ziheng and others were about to continue moving forward with them, Di Baichen said, "Senior Brother Ren, you can take us here. Leave the rest to us." Chapter 37:17. We are already very grateful that you can bring us here. Chu Yunyao and the others have a great influence in Penglai Inner Hall. Even if we really want to be enemies, it's our business. You don't have to get involved in this mess. Di Baichen looked determined. From the various situations introduced by Ren Ziheng and the others, Chu Yunyao and the others were indeed not to be offended. This matter was related to the four of them, so they had to take action. At worst, they would not stay in Penglai Inner Hall, but they could not implicate Ren Ziheng and the others. Di Baichen is right. Leave the rest to us. Senior Brother Ren, you have helped us a lot. We are very grateful. In the next second, Di Baichen and the others ignored the opposition of Ren Ziheng and the others and walked directly into Chu Yunyao's residence. Seeing Di Baichen and the others leave like this, Ren Zimei's face was full of worry. In their situation, there will definitely be a conflict if they go in like this. If they fight here, Junior Sister Bailey and the others won't have any benefits. Junior Brother D and the others are thinking for us. In our situation, if we offend Chu Yunyao and the others, I'm afraid our future in Penglai Inner Hall will not be easy. Ren Ziheng sighed. If he was a little stronger, he really wanted to go in with Di Baichen and the others. However, he was not strong enough. The fate of the cultivators who had offended Chu Yunyao and the others was still vivid in his mind. He could not completely ignore their own safety. Then what should we do now? Chu Jinfeng's face was very ugly. This feeling is really suffocating. Let's look at the situation here. If Junior Brother D and the others are really in danger, then we will immediately go to find Master Long. Ren Ziheng looked serious. However, Junior Brother D and the others are not innate people. Since they asked us about the strength of Chu Yunyao and the others before, they must have already made plans in their hearts. Even if there is a conflict, it should not be in such a disadvantageous situation. Ren Zimei nodded slightly. What you said makes sense. I hope nothing happened to Junior Sister Shangguan. Otherwise, I'm afraid this situation will be out of control. Just thinking about Xiren's expression made Ren Zimei's heart sink. Although they hadn't known each other for a long time, she knew the feelings between Xiren and Wenxinya. Once something happened to Shangguan Yingying, when Xiren would not be able to control it even if he wanted to. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two arrived, Chu Yunyao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently and said, "Isn't this Junior Sister Bailey, whom I just met yesterday? How come you're free to visit me today?" In the face of Chu Yunyao's hypocritical chatter, Bailey Hongzhuang was not in the mood to feign civility at all. "Where is Yingying?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Hearing this, Chu Yunyao raised her eyebrows slightly and said with a chuckle, "Haha, did I hear wrongly? How dare you ask me where your companions went? How would I know where she went?" "Don't pretend." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were slightly cold. "There is no one else except you. You'd better tell us where Yingying is in full detail. Otherwise, it won't be good if we make a fuss. Are you threatening me?" Chu Yunyao narrowed her eyes. The next second, Chu Yunyao's eyes became disdainful. "You inexplicably came to my residence to question me about this groundless matter, and now you're threatening me. Don't you think it's ridiculous?" Chapter 37:18. Chu Yunyao. Tell me what you have done to Yingying. When Xiren could no longer control his emotions after seeing Chu Yunyao's disgusting appearance, an astonishing murderous aura rose in his heart. Looking at Xiren's blood-red eyes, Chu Yunyao was also a little surprised, but she quickly recovered. "I didn't expect that woman to have an infatuated lover. It's really surprising." "Cut the crap. We are not in the mood to waste time here with you," Wen Xiren said coldly. Seeing this, Chu Yunyao glanced at Wen Xiren with displeasure, spread out her hands and said, "I have already said it very clearly. I have never seen Shangguan Yingying. Naturally, I don't know where she has gone." Chu Yunyao, why do you have to hide it now? Don't you think you are amazing? Don't tell me you don't even dare to admit what you have done? Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. At this moment, looking at Chu Yunyao's expression, she was more and more sure that her judgment was not wrong. Yingying's disappearance must have something to do with Chu Yunyao. Don't lie to me. Chu Yunyao sneered. I am indeed unhappy to see you, but this matter has nothing to do with me. If you don't have evidence, don't talk nonsense with me. If you don't believe me, you can ask the cultivators living nearby. Everyone knows that I have been staying here since I came back yesterday, and have not left at all. The next moment, Chu Yunyao walked out of the house directly, attracting the disciples living around. These disciples who have just joined the inner hall are really impressive. They actually came here to challenge me. Everyone, help me testify. Have I been staying here since I came back from the resource hall yesterday, and have not left at all? Listening to Chu Yunyao's words, the cultivators living around also came out to watch the show. Indeed, Chu Yunyao only went out for a while at noon yesterday. After coming back, she has been with me and has never left. I can testify to this. I came out a few times and saw Chu Yunyao. She should have never left. Chu Yunyao turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, Now you should have heard it clearly, right? This matter has nothing to do with me. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. She didn't believe what Chu Yunyao said. It was precisely because her performance was flawless that it was the biggest flaw. Since you've done this, you've naturally planned everything. I'm sure you've arranged the alibi a long time ago, when Ziren said. Do you mean that I colluded with others to deceive you? Chu Yunyao laughed, and her eyes suddenly became gloomy. Who do you think you are? Do I need to do that? When Ziren's expression also turned ugly. The other party's arrogance had been fully displayed through these few words. Chu Yunyao was indeed here yesterday and didn't leave. We even chatted with her for a long time. I'm afraid this matter really has nothing to do with her. Some of the surrounding cultivators also spoke up again. Chu Yunyao's expression changed. Looking at the appearance of the crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that these people did not seem to be lying. In this way, this matter was really a little strange. Hiring a murderer? Chapter 37:19. Di Beichen and the others couldn't help but look at each other. They had the same idea. Chu Yunyao's alibi was too deliberate. It was precisely because it was too deliberate that they were more and more sure that it was Chu Yunyao who did it. However, without evidence, Chu Yunyao could always deny it, so they couldn't do anything. Chu Yunyao could afford to waste time, but they couldn't. Chu Yunyao, if anything happens to Yingying, I will never let you go. Ziren looked at Chu Yunyao fiercely, and a strong hatred erupted in his chest. He wished he could tear the person in front of him into pieces. Noticing Ziren's fierce gaze, Chu Yunyao's eyes flashed with a trace of fluctuation. If you dared to confront me directly, you wouldn't have left with your tail between your legs yesterday. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Chu Yunyao. Didn't you go through so much trouble just to make sure that I can't find any evidence? Let me tell you, even if I don't find any evidence, I can still be sure that it was you who did it. Bailey Hongzhuang's deep black eyes flashed with a cold and crazy light. She looked at Chu Yunyao with certainty. You'd better pray that Yingying is still alive. Otherwise, I will definitely let you taste the taste of regret. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. Chu Yunyao, you were the first to provoke this matter, so you have to be prepared for crazy revenge. Di Beichen's face was gloomy as he slowly said, every word deeply hitting Chu Yunyao's heart. Chu Yunyao looked at the three people in front of her in surprise. She couldn't believe it. The cultivation of the three people in front of her was not even a match for her, but when she heard their fierce words, her heart was shocked for no reason. She actually felt a little guilty. This was too unbelievable. Her ink-black jade-like eyes were like a black whirlpool, flickering with a cold light. Chu Yunyao, I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to tell me or not? You want to pin this groundless crime on me. I advise you to give up this idea. Chu Yunyao was unmoved. I can see it clearly at a glance. Where is Shangguan Yingying's shadow? Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you're Master Long's favorite. This isn't a place where you can behave atrociously. Bailey Hongzhuang, it won't do you any good if I report this to my superiors. You'd better get out of here while I'm trying to persuade you. You. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were sharp as she looked at Chu Yunyao. Her fists were clenched so hard that her knuckles were white. This damned woman wanted to make them unhappy with such a method. Chu Yunyao's room could be seen at a glance. Shangguan Yingying couldn't be here at all. The most important thing was that Chu Yunyao refused to admit it. They didn't know whether Shangguan Yingying was still alive. Ren Ziheng and others rushed over after seeing that Chu Yunyao's door was full of practitioners. After learning about the situation, they couldn't help but transmit a voice to Di Beichen. Junior brother Di, Chu Yunyao and Chu Yunshang are twin sisters. Could they be covering up for each other? Di Beichen was stunned after hearing the news. They only knew that Chu Yunyao had an elder sister, but they didn't know that they were twin sisters. Chapter 37:20. With Di Beichen's words, all the cultivators present were stunned, and their faces flashed with deep astonishment. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen in surprise, but soon understood. She was shocked. She really didn't expect that they were twin sisters. What do you mean by that? Chu Yunyao frowned. Of course I am Chu Yunyao. You said that you have been with others since you came back yesterday. This alibi is a bit too deliberate. You sisters are exactly the same. Maybe you are not Chu Yunyao at all, but Chu Yunshang. Her eyes were as bright as stars, shining with sharp and boundless light, as if she could see through everything, making people unable to hide. At the same time, there was a burst of discussion around. What Di Beichen said is right. The two sisters are exactly the same. Even if they are familiar with each other, they often mistake them for each other. If the two of them collude, it is really hard to say. I don't know how Chu Yunyao got into a conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Beichen and others have been looking for Shangguan Yingying since yesterday. Now they are here. I'm afraid it's not far from the truth. Who knows? There are many people who make trouble for Chu Yunyao on weekdays. It seems that they have a deep grudge. Chu Yunyao's face changed. What nonsense are you talking about? My sister has been busy with closed-door training these days, and has not come out at all. Many people present know that this is not a secret. Who knows when she will come out of seclusion? Xiren's face was gloomy. He was sure that it was Chu Yunyao who did it. Although this woman insisted that it was reasonable, he could feel that this woman was a little guilty at that moment. There are many people who pay attention to my enchantment in the inner hall of Penglai. If she comes out, you will definitely not be the first to notice. Chu Yunyao's voice was slightly cold. Cut the crap. In short, if you can't find evidence, don't come to me to make trouble. As soon as she finished speaking, Chu Yunyao no longer paid attention to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and directly closed the door. Looking at the tightly shut door, the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others turned extremely ugly. Judging from Chu Yunyao's performance, I'm afraid she has made up her mind not to tell us where Yingying is. Di Beichen said in a low voice, his eyes cold. Under such circumstances, if we want to make her tell us everything, we have to be stronger than her. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Chu Yunyao's attitude had explained everything. Unless they forced Chu Yunyao to say it, they would not be able to get any information at all. Most importantly, their current strength was weaker than Chu Yunyao's. Damn it! Xiren's rage had reached its peak. I'm going to kill this woman. Xiren, calm down first. Di Beichen grabbed Xiren. It's not good for us to make trouble here now. We have to think of a way. Since she keeps saying that we have no evidence, she must be very confident in her approach. If we don't find the evidence, she will never let go. We can wait, but Yingying can't. Xiren couldn't help but go crazy. His mind was full of Shangguan Yingying's current situation. Chapter 37:21. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, their faces full of annoyance and helplessness. They clearly knew who did this, but because of their lack of strength, they could only stay here, which was really a grievance. If they had evidence, then as long as they found Master Long, they could solve this problem, but without evidence, Chu Yunyao would not admit it, and they had no other choice. I'm going to release the news. Whoever wants Chu Yunyao's life, I can help him refine the elixir. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice dropped to the freezing point. She would not let Chu Yunyao continue to be so arrogant. Di Beichen and others looked at each other. They believed that someone would be willing to do this method. However, it would take some time. At this moment, a voice came into Bailey Hongzhuang's ears. Bailey Hongzhuang, if you want to save Shangguan Yingying, then go to the Green Mountain of Penglai Island alone. If you dare to tell this news to others, then Shangguan Yingying will only have a dead end. What to do, you think about it yourself. Don't try to hide it from me. Your every move is in my eyes. As long as they know, Shangguan Yingying will die immediately. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly changed. It was really Chu Yunyao. This damn woman's scheming was so deep. It was just for a Yunling fruit, but she went through so much trouble. Di Beichen and others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's slightly changed expression and couldn't help but ask, Hongzhuang, what's wrong with you? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Nothing, it's useless to continue to stay here. Let's go back first. Di Beichen and others nodded. They had to go back and make a long-term plan. Inside the house, Yunshang, have you sent them away? He Jinjun walked to Chu Yunshang's side and asked casually. Chu Yunshang nodded. These guys don't seem easy to deal with. Yunyao really likes to cause trouble. Forget it. Although they have already become inner palace disciples, the difference in strength between them and us is too great. Yunyao is merely playing around. These fellows are simply unable to pose any threat to us. I heard that Bailey Hongzhuang has made a great contribution this time. It's really troublesome to make a move on her now. Chu Yunshang shook her head helplessly. I just came out of seclusion, and I have to help her with this kind of boring thing. I have to control her well in the future. Don't worry, it was done beautifully. Not a single trace was left behind. Don't worry. He Yunjun hugged Chu Yunshang. Those guys, if they die, they die. No one will care. Night slowly fell. Di Beichen and the others had been looking for clues, intending to find evidence. As long as someone had done it, there would definitely be some traces left behind. They did not believe that nothing would be left behind. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang also walked in the direction of Green Mountain when no one was paying attention. Since she heard Chu Yunyao's words, she was relieved. As long as she did not arrive at Green Mountain, then Yingying would be fine, so she waited until now to set off. Master, that Chu Yunyao deliberately attracted you. I'm afraid she is fully prepared to take your life. Chapter 37:22. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix-like eyes narrowed slightly. I'd like to see what kind of inescapable net she has set up for me. Vaguely, she always felt that it was strange for Chu Yunyao to go through so much trouble for a Yunling fruit. If Chu Yunyao did not want to, she could have done it directly yesterday afternoon. Penglai Palace did not prevent conflicts between practitioners. It was not a big deal to fight openly. It was a bit strange for her to go through so much trouble. Shangguan Yingying, it's dark. Do you think Bailey Hongzhuang will come to save you? Chu Yunyao looked at Shangguan Yingying in front of her with a smile. At this moment, she was tied to a tree. Her clothes were covered with blood, and the exposed wounds were very dazzling. She looked very miserable. Shangguan Yingying looked at Chu Yunyao angrily, but she was too lazy to speak. Pa! Chu Yunyao whipped Shangguan Yingying, and suddenly there was a blood-red wound on her body. Hiss! Shangguan Yingying frowned, and her pretty face became distorted because of the pain, but she stubbornly refused to beg for mercy. In her opinion, this woman was completely crazy before. Yesterday, when she was in the room, she was informed that Ziren and Di Baichen had a conflict with someone outside. She rushed over to take a look, but she did not expect that she would be directly knocked out after going out. When she woke up, she was already tied here by Chu Yunyao. "You don't want to talk to me?" Chu Yunyao stepped forward and pinched Shangguan Yingying's chin directly with one hand. The huge force made Shangguan Yingying's forehead ooze cold sweat. "In my opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang will not come. You took great pains to fight for the Yunling fruit for her, but she is unwilling to save you. Are you disappointed?" "What do you know?" Shangguan Yingying snorted coldly. "A selfish and arrogant guy like you must think that no one is more important than yourself, right? Of course." Chu Yunyao raised her eyebrows proudly and loosened her grip on Shangguan Yingying's chin. 5 fingerprints had been imprinted on her chin, which showed that she had used a lot of strength before. "In my opinion, you are just an idiot who has been used by others. You have been reduced to this point, but you still think that Bailey Hongzhuang is sincere to you. It's ridiculous. You're such a person, so of course you'd think so. Hongzhuang isn't someone you can compare to." Chu Yunyao chuckled. "You idiot. If Bailey Hongzhuang really dies for you, it's not too late for you to say that. Otherwise, it just proves how stupid you are." Shangguan Yingying looked at Chu Yunyao speechlessly. "It's just a Yunling fruit. Do you have to go through so much trouble? What do you know?" Chu Yunyao's face changed, and her eyes were sharp and paranoid. "If it's just for a Yunling fruit, I naturally won't go through so much trouble. But Bailey Hongzhuang shouldn't what?" Shangguan Yingying frowned and had some doubts in her heart. They had just met Chu Yunyao yesterday. What did Hongzhuang do? She shouldn't be liked by Duan Huali. Chu Yunyao's voice lowered, and her deep eyes seemed to be lost in thought. Shangguan Yingying was stunned. At this moment, she understood that the problem was here. Chu Yunyao did such a thing because of Duan Huali? Chapter 37-23. Shangguan Yingying looked at Chu Yunyao speechlessly. She had never expected that Chu Yunyao would kidnap her because of this matter. This was an undeserved disaster for them, okay? Duan Huali was simply a hindrance. That's what she did wrong. Chu Yunyao's face became ferocious. If she obediently accepted Duan Huali, it would be fine. How dare she ignore him? What right does Bailey Hongzhuang have to ignore him? Who does she think she is? As soon as these words came out, Shangguan Yingying was completely speechless. She looked at Chu Yunyao blankly for a moment and said, "Are you crazy?" "You are crazy," Chu Yunyao scolded angrily. Shangguan Yingying looked at Chu Yunyao as if she was looking at a fool. "If you are sick, go and treat it. What does this kind of thing have to do with us? It's not right to be liked by Duan Huali or not to like Duan Huali. What do you want?" Shangguan Yingying was already very unhappy to be tortured by this crazy woman. Now hearing this crazy woman's strange remarks, Shangguan Yingying almost felt that there was something wrong with her brain. "You don't understand feelings at all." Chu Yunyao's eyes were distant with a trace of pain. Shangguan Yingying was dumbfounded. "I don't understand feelings? I don't understand feelings? No matter how you look at it, there is something wrong with your brain, right? Duan Huali likes a lot of women, but each of them is just a game. He doesn't treat any of them sincerely. This kind of woman is nothing at all," Chu Yunyao said slowly. The next second, her eyes suddenly became sharp. "But he has never treated a woman seriously." Shangguan Yingying, who thought that Chu Yunyao was completely crazy, understood a little at this moment. Although this woman's idea was very strange, she had to admit that she really liked Duan Huali. Otherwise, with Duan Huali's degree of unfaithfulness, ordinary women couldn't stand it at all. She actually liked him all the time. Sure enough, only a weirdo would like a tortoise and a mung bean. "I've never seen Duan Huali so serious." Chu Yunyao stared at Shangguan Yingying, her eyes paranoid and crazy. "Bailey Hongzhuang has rejected him so much, but he doesn't care at all. He has never been angry with me because of a woman, because I have a different meaning to him. But he is angry with me for Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang. All this is Bailey Hongzhuang's fault. So, I want Bailey Hongzhuang to die. I will never allow another woman who treats Duan Huali differently to appear. Her dark eyes flashed with a strong murderous intent. It's best that Bailey Hongzhuang appears today, then I can save myself a lot of trouble. If she doesn't appear today, I have to find another way. It was not until this moment that Shangguan Yingying finally understood why Chu Yunyao had taken great pains to use her to attract Bailey Hongzhuang. It was because Chu Yunyao didn't want Duan Huali to know that Bailey Hongzhuang's matter had something to do with her. In this way, Chu Yunyao really put a lot of thought into this matter. She had always regarded Duan Huali as a playboy. She liked Hongzhuang just because of her appearance, but now, according to Chu Yunyao's analysis, Duan Huali was very serious about Hongzhuang. Chapter 37-24. There was some doubt in Shangguan Yingying's eyes. She found that Duan Huali's romantic debt was really amazing. This messy love triangle was really confusing. You're wrong. The person he really likes is me. Chu Yunyao's eyes changed and she said, I look the same as my sister. He just accidentally mixed us up. Shangguan Yingying was slightly stunned, and immediately understood that Chu Yunyao and Chu Yunshang were twin sisters. In this way, Duan Huali didn't know the situation and mistook the two sisters for the same person, did he? If that was really the case, then it would really be a good show. Maybe he likes your sister and mistook you for someone else? Shangguan Yingying looked at Chu Yunyao in front of her. Anyway, the two sisters looked the same. Only Duan Huali knew whether he was pursuing Chu Yunshang or Chu Yunyao. As soon as these words came out, Chu Yunyao seemed to be stimulated by something, and her face was extremely ugly. The next second, she rushed to Shangguan Yingying like crazy. She pulled the latter's shoulders with both hands and shook them constantly. As she shook them, she shouted, What nonsense are you talking about? He likes me. It's me. The sharp voice was a little hysterical. Chu Yunyao seemed to be possessed. Shangguan Yingying was constantly shaken and hit against the tree. The pain made her injury worse again. Psycho! Shangguan Yingying shouted. She regretted it. She shouldn't have talked seriously with a lunatic. This woman couldn't listen to anything at all. The reason why Duan Huali treated her differently might be that she was mentally ill. Who could stand such madness? No wonder Duan Huali didn't accept it. Pa! Chu Yunyao slapped Shangguan Yingying's face, and her expression returned to calm. No matter what, Bailey Hongzhuang dares to attract Duan Huali's attention. It's her fault. I must kill her. Chu Yunyao's face was ferocious and her eyes were gloomy. As for you, if you dare to compete with me, you will also die. At this moment, Shangguan Yingying didn't want to say anything more to Chu Yunyao. This woman was completely unreasonable. She thought she was a princess and everyone should listen to her arrangements. She didn't understand how a woman with such a personality could live until now. She should have died a long time ago. However, she was most worried about Bailey Hongzhuang. Chu Yunyao had told her that if Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to save her, she had to come alone. With her understanding of Hongzhuang would never leave her alone. But once she came, Hongzhuang would be in danger. Although Chu Yunyao was a lunatic in her eyes, she had to admit that Chu Yunyao was indeed very strong. After being captured, she had resisted, but Chu Yunyao's cultivation had already reached the 9th level of the Purple Realm. She was no match for her at all. Although Hongzhuang could fight above her level, the gap between the 9th level of the Purple Realm was too big. If Bailey Hongzhuang really came alone, it would be really dangerous. She only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't come alone, or didn't come at all. If something happened because of her, it would be the most unacceptable thing. At this moment, a subtle voice sounded in the distance. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang's familiar voice also sounded. Chapter 37-25. Listening to this voice, Chu Yunyao's lips slowly raised a sneer, and she looked at Shangguan Yingying playfully. It seems that you are right. This Bailey Hongzhuang is also an idiot. She really came alone. Shangguan Yingying's face suddenly became ugly. Hongzhuang is not, you are the idiot. She knows that I am stronger than her, but she still dares to come alone. What is it if she is not stupid? Chu Yunyao sneered. The friendship between idiots is ridiculous. It's better than a guy like you. I don't know if anyone will come to collect the corpse when you die. Shangguan Yingying sneered. Chu Yunyao's face changed and she snapped, Are you looking for death? Don't worry, when I teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson, you will soon accompany her to hell. Bailey Hongzhuang walked on the Green Mountain. There was no one around. There was no other sound except the sound of birds and insects. She frowned slightly. There was no need for Chu Yunshang to lie to her. Chu Yunyao and Shangguan Yingying should be here. Master, why is there no movement at all? Xiao He was a little confused. The scope of the whole Green Mountain was not small. If they were to find it, it would take a lot of time. Maybe the distance is still a little far. Chu Yunyao is afraid that I will not come. If she knows that I am here, she will be very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly heard some movement in front of her. Her beautiful black eyes flashed with a bright light, and she immediately quickened her pace and walked forward. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang finally saw Chu Yunyao. At the same time, she also saw Shangguan Yingying, who was tied to a tree and was very dispirited. From the shocking wounds on her body, it could be seen that she had been tortured inhumanly. Even her face was painted with a big cross by Chu Yunyao, and it was dripping with blood. They often learned together, and injuries were common, but she had never seen Shangguan Yingying so miserable. An indescribable anger rose in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. The raging flames burned in her eyes, and her eyes were full of killing intent when she looked at Chu Yunyao. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're finally here. Chu Yunyao took a step forward with a sneer on her face. I was worried that you would become a coward and not dare to come. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Chu Yunyao with her cold eyes, and her voice was extremely cold. What did you do to Yingying? Hearing this, Chu Yunyao smiled slightly, then spread out her hands and said, It's nothing. As you can see, I just taught her a lesson. Damn you! Unfortunately, you're the one who's going to die. Chu Yunyao sneered. I didn't expect you to really think of yourself as a hero. You actually came here alone, hee. When Shangguan Yingying saw that Bailey Hongzhuang really came alone, she couldn't help feeling sad. Hongzhuang, this is a trap. Noticing Shangguan Yingying's guilt and worry, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say, Yingying, don't worry, I will take you away. Chapter 37:26. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. You spent so much effort to attract me here. Don't you want to take my life? Yes, I warned you before that if you offend me, you will have to pay the price. Chu Yunyao's face was ferocious. You are really fast. The Yunling fruit has been absorbed by you. The reason why she took action immediately yesterday afternoon was largely because of the Yunling fruit. There was only one Yunling fruit in the Penglai Palace. She didn't know when it would appear again. But she didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would act so fast. As soon as she returned, she went into closed-door cultivation. She originally intended to attract Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying together, but she didn't expect that only Shangguan Yingying came out. Now that the Yunling fruit had been absorbed by Bailey Hongzhuang, she naturally had no other way. After catching Shangguan Yingying, she took her Qiankuan bag, but she didn't expect that there were only some odds and ends in the Qiankuan bag. There were no valuable treasures at all, and there weren't even many spirit stones. She was really poor. However, Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her was a very famous doctor. She believed that the resources in her Qiankuan bag must be very rich. If she killed Bailey Hongzhuang, not only would she be able to vent her anger, but she would also be able to make a lot of money. If Bailey Hongzhuang still had some amazing prescriptions, it would undoubtedly be the best. For this, Shangguan Yingying was also a little glad. Cultivators had always put things in their Qiankuan bag, but if the Qiankuan bag was accidentally robbed, the loss would not be small. Since knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang had the Chaos Ring, they put all the important things in the Chaos Ring. They only put some spirit stones and small things in the Qiankuan bag. In this way, even if they lost it, they would not lose much. It was because of this that Chu Yunyao didn't get anything. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Chu Yunyao faintly and was a little annoyed in her heart. Just for a Yunling fruit, she didn't expect that Yingying would fall into such a predicament and be tortured like this. What is not yours is not destined to be yours. You're really confident. I really don't understand what's so good about your self-righteous appearance that Duan Huali liked. Chu Yunyao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang coldly. She wore a white plain dress on her body, which set off her beautiful figure. Her beautiful face was exquisite and dazzling. Even though she had an angry expression on her face, she still gave people a beautiful feeling. The bright and cool moonlight sprinkled on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, adding a trace of blurriness and otherworldly beauty. However, the more she found Bailey Hongzhuang, the more Chu Yunyao wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. She was not willing to admit that her heart was full of jealousy. If she was born with Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance, Duan Huali would be devoted to her. But it didn't matter. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang was dead, all these problems would not exist. Hearing Chu Yunyao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned for a moment. Only then did she understand that Chu Yunyao did this for Duan Huali. There is no relationship between Duan Huali and me. If you want the Yunling fruit, it's fine. But if it's for him, then you are thinking too much. No. Chu Yunyao waved her hand. Duan Huali can't see through your method of playing hard to get. Do you think I can't see through it? Chapter 37:27. Hongzhuang, don't talk to her. This woman is completely crazy. Shangguan Yingying said, this woman can't tolerate anyone who has anything to do with Duan Huali, even if Duan Huali is unyielding. Listening to Shangguan Yingying's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. She looked at Chu Yunyao again with a complicated look. It seemed that their previous judgment was right. There was indeed a story between Chu Yunyao and Duan Huali. Now it seemed that Chu Yunyao was deeply in love with Duan Huali, so she looked at her with deep hatred. Don't play dumb. Chu Yunyao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with disgust. I know a woman like you very well. If you didn't try to seduce him, how could he be serious about you? Looking at Chu Yunyao's hateful look, Bailey Hongzhuang also believed what Shangguan Yingying said. This woman was indeed crazy. She was completely like a mad dog, biting whoever she caught. Psycho. Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. Chu Yunyao, you like Duan Huali doesn't mean that everyone will like him. What you can't get by any means doesn't mean that others want it. By the way, you really don't have good taste. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. She really didn't have a good impression of Duan Huali. This kind of man was fickle and could do anything behind the scenes. She didn't know how many women had been played by him. She really didn't understand. Chu Yunyao looked good, but she actually liked Duan Huali like this. However, Duan Huali didn't like her. It was really incredible. What do you know? Chu Yunyao jumped up as if her tail had been stepped on. Don't you superficial women all say that Duan Huali is bad, and then refuse him? I've seen plenty of women like you. Seeing that Chu Yunyao seemed to have determined everything, Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to explain more. Obviously, no matter what she said, it was useless. Why waste her breath? At the same time, she couldn't help but sympathize with Duan Huali. If Chu Yunyao wanted to interfere with anyone that Duan Huali liked, then wouldn't every woman that Duan Huali liked die for no reason? You're not talking? Am I right? Chu Yunyao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with disdain. Over the years, there had been a lot of women around Duan Huali. She had already seen through these women. Each of these women seemed to think that they were Duan Huali's true love, but the final result clearly told them that this was just their fantasy. Only Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her had a different meaning in Duan Huali's heart. She could allow Duan Huali to play with other women, but she couldn't accept that Duan Huali was serious about a woman. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang must die. Bailey Hongzhuang took a deep look at Chu Yunyao and said, I suddenly understand why Duan Huali doesn't like you. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the pride and disdain on Chu Yunyao's face disappeared, and her eyes flickered. What nonsense are you talking about? Don't you know it in your heart? If Duan Huali liked you, you wouldn't be as crazy as you are now. Chapter 37:28. You're talking nonsense. Duan Huali has me in his heart. I'm the one who is the most special to him. Chu Yunyao shouted. Looking at Chu Yunyao's crazy and persistent appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer willing to say anything more. Chu Yunyao was obviously living in her own world. No matter what others said, it was useless. At this moment, she was only thinking about how to save Shangguan Yingying and leave. Shangguan Yingying's state, although she looked very miserable, most of her injuries were superficial, and her internal injuries were not serious. However, it was not easy for her to take Shangguan Yingying away because Chu Yunyao's strength was there. Once they started fighting, she would never be able to take advantage of her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's indifference fell into Chu Yunyao's eyes. It was a joke and disdain, and suddenly there was a burst of anger in her heart. Bailey Hongzhuang, die. In the next second, the Yuan power in Chu Yunyao's body suddenly burst out. The Yuan power of the 9th level of the Red Realm was very shocking. The pressure was directly exerted and mercilessly crushed Bailey Hongzhuang. Feeling this kind of pressure, Bailey Hongzhuang's face changed slightly. So far, she had never fought with a cultivator of the 9th level of the Purple Realm. At this moment, after feeling Chu Yunyao's pressure, she understood that the gap in strength was indeed not small. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang did not hesitate to use the Blood Qi field. With her strength of the 6th level of the Purple Realm, she was no match for Chu Yunyao, who was at the 9th level of the Purple Realm. What's more, Chu Yunyao was an inner hall disciple who often practiced in the field. Anyone who practiced in such an environment for a long time would have amazing fighting strength. The rich blood qi burst out, and Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were covered with a layer of blood red. Then, her aura directly changed from the 6th level of the Purple Realm to the 8th level of the Purple Realm. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang didn't hesitate to throw a punch at the pressure. She only heard a small sound, and the pressure on her body immediately dissipated. She also felt her whole body relax, and the pressure on her body disappeared. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation had suddenly improved so much, Chu Yunyao's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. She had also heard that Bailey Hongzhuang had obtained the inheritance of the Blood Qi field, but this was the first time she had seen this Blood Qi field. It really lived up to its reputation. The Blood Qi field is indeed powerful. However, the difference in strength between you and me is simply too great. Even if you use all your skills, your cultivation is still inferior to mine. Chu Yunyao's lips curled into a sneer, but it's a pity that one of the inheritors of the blood aura field will fall from today onwards. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. You are indeed strong, but it won't be easy for you to kill me. You think too highly of yourself. Chu Yunyao's eyes were full of ridicule. In the next second, she attacked Bailey Hongzhuang without hesitation. The huge fist enlarged in Bailey Hongzhuang's pupils. The light in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes changed a little, and then her fist fiercely met the attack. Bang! The two fists collided, and a burst of energy shot out. Ta-ta-ta. Bailey Hongzhuang took a few steps back, and a sharp pain came from her fist. In that instant, there seemed to be a slight sound coming from her finger bones. Chu Yunyao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden change in expression, and the corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up a little. Bailey Hongzhuang, I told you long ago that you are not my opponent. Chapter 37-29. You came here today to die. Chu Yunyao smiled proudly. Since you are a great doctor, you must have mastered a lot of prescriptions. As long as you die, these things will be mine. Bailey Hongzhuang miscalculated. If it was just because of Duan Huali, she didn't need to go through so much trouble. It was just that Bailey Hongzhuang was too conspicuous in Penglai Palace, so she had to get rid of her without leaving any evidence. She had been in the inner hall for a long time and knew the rules of the inner hall. As long as there was no evidence, even if others wanted to stand up for the dead Bailey Hongzhuang, it was useless. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. She had already expected that Chu Yunyao's strength was very strong, but after this fight, she understood that Chu Yunyao's strength was stronger than she thought. You really like to dream, Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Hearing this, Chu Yunyao chuckled. Hee, it's useless even if you are stubborn. Today, let me tell you that the end of being a hero is a dead end. The next moment, Chu Yunyao's figure swept and turned into a rainbow to attack Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang did not dare to neglect. She had already clearly understood the strength gap between the two. If she did not deal with it carefully, she was really likely to suffer a big loss here. Bang bang bang! The two figures quickly intertwined. Bailey Hongzhuang tried her best to dodge Chu Yunyao's attack, but the latter obviously would not let Bailey Hongzhuang do as she wished. She followed her closely like a maggot attached to a bone, not giving her any chance to escape. When the two figures separated again, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure was already a little embarrassed. Her hands trembled slightly under the sleeves. Chu Yunyao's strength was stronger than hers. In such a head-on process, she was inevitably injured. Master, we're here to help you, the three beasties hurriedly said. However, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Chu Yunyao's cultivation is much higher than yours. Even if you help me, it won't be of much use. On the contrary, you will be seriously injured. Then you can't handle it alone. The eyes of the three beasts were filled with anxiety. They also understood that Chu Yunyao's cultivation was 3 levels higher than theirs. It was really difficult for them to cross such a gap in strength. Don't be impatient. I won't be defeated so quickly. I'll think of a way, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a deep voice. Chu Yunyao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, whose face was a little ugly, and the teasing smile on her lips couldn't help but become more intense. Now you know the difference in strength between you and me, right? Unfortunately, it's too late now. After Shangguan Yingying noticed this scene, she couldn't help but shout out, Hongzhuang, don't worry about me, just go. Yingying, don't worry, I'll definitely save you. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes swept towards Chu Yunyao. The battle has just begun. You don't have to come to a conclusion so quickly. Chu Yunyao chuckled, but her eyes suddenly turned cold. Since that's the case, then I'll directly beat you to the ground. Let's see if you can continue to be stubborn. Immediately after, the yuan qi in Chu Yunyao's body surged out continuously. Her hands flipped quickly, and one by one, complicated seals were quietly formed. It was obvious that she was serious. Chapter 37:30. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was solemn. Even though she had used the blood qi field to raise her cultivation to the 8th level of the Purple Realm, there was still a big gap between her and Chu Yunyao, who was at the 9th level of the Purple Realm. Needless to say, the power of Chu Yunyao's martial skill would not be weak, so she had to deal with it with all her strength. As the seal between Chu Yunyao's hands gradually completed, the smile on her lips widened. Bailey Hongzhuang, I'll let you see the power of the 9th level of the Purple Realm. In the next second, a huge flaming lion suddenly appeared in the air. The raging flames burned crazily, as if it was a flame spirit, burning with extreme flames. The temperature of the surroundings rose in an instant, and the fiery red light illuminated the entire green mountain. Roar! With a loud roar from the flaming lion, the whole ground seemed to shake. The lifelike appearance was like a real lion. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed. Looking at the lion in front of her, she knew that this martial skill was probably an Earth stage martial skill, and it was extremely powerful. The flaming lion's eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang, as if it had already regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as delicious food. As long as Chu Yunyao gave the order, it would pounce on Bailey Hongzhuang without hesitation. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were not slow at all. A complicated seal quietly appeared between her hands, and a powerful fluctuation spread out. After noticing the seven-colored essence energy between Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, Chu Yunyao couldn't help but frown. She had never seen a cultivator's essence energy with 7 colors. It was as bright and magnificent as a rainbow, and it made Bailey Hongzhuang's face even more outstanding. This woman seemed to be especially favored by the heavens. No matter what she did, there was a sense of beauty. However, Chu Yunyao was soon attracted by the powerful fluctuation displayed by Bailey Hongzhuang, and she couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Logically speaking, even if Bailey Hongzhuang used the blood aura field to raise her cultivation, it was impossible for her to display such a tyrannical martial skill. If she wasn't mistaken, even a true 8th-level Purple Realm cultivator wouldn't be able to display a martial skill of this level. However, Bailey Hongzhuang actually did it. How could she not be surprised? It seemed that everyone was right. This Bailey Hongzhuang was truly a cultivation genius. If she was allowed to continue developing, she might really become an extremely famous figure in the Inner Palace. Fortunately, she acted early enough. After today, Bailey Hongzhuang would completely disappear from Penglai Island. She naturally didn't need to worry. A rainbow-colored pagoda suddenly appeared behind Bailey Hongzhuang. The rainbow-colored light constantly revolved, dazzling and eye-catching. It was just like Bailey Hongzhuang's rainbow-colored Yuan force, magnificent and magnificent. Although the 7-colored pagoda was magnificent and resplendent, the aura it emitted was equally powerful. Go! Chu Yunyao's eyes flashed with a cold light. Without hesitation, she called the flaming lion and rushed towards Bailey Hongzhuang. The more she found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's power, the more she wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao He, be careful to save Yingying. Don't let Chu Yunyao find out. Bailey Hongzhuang lowered her voice and instructed. Now that Shangguan Yingying was tied to a tree, she had to rescue her first. Shangguan Yingying was now tied to a tree. She came here today to save Shangguan Yingying, not to fight to the death with Chu Yunyao. Chapter 37-31. Yes, Master. Xiao He suddenly disappeared into the darkness. After it shrank, it was impossible to find it in the night. This was also the best opportunity to rescue Yingying. Bailey Hongzhuang thought very simply. She didn't come here alone. After understanding the difference in strength between the two sides, she understood that the possibility of defeating Chu Yunyao head-on was almost zero. Similarly, she couldn't die like this. As long as she could take Yingying and disappear from Chu Yunyao's sight, then she could use the Chaos Ring to disappear directly. This was her trump card. However, it was not easy to do this. She couldn't expose the secret of the Chaos Ring. After disappearing, she definitely couldn't let Chu Yunyao find the Chaos Ring. Therefore, she had to take advantage of the battle to leave with Shangguan Yingying. Chu Yunyao didn't notice Bailey Hongzhuang's small movements. She was immersed in the joy of Bailey Hongzhuang's defeat. Boom! The earth-shaking sound came out with a loud bang. In an instant, the earth shook, and the ground under her feet cracked inch by inch. It was like a spider web, spreading extremely quickly. The fiery red lion and the 7-colored light of the glazed pagoda collided with each other. The two lights intertwined, each occupying half of the sky. The flaming lion intended to completely tear the glazed pagoda to pieces, and the spinning glazed pagoda was not so easy to solve. The whole sky was illuminated by the light of the battle. The cultivators of Penglai Island also turned their eyes to Qingshan. Obviously, they didn't expect that a battle of this level would break out in Qingshan. Penglai Palace. After Chu Yunshang noticed the battle from Qingshan, she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. It seems that Yun Yao and Bailey Hongzhuang have already fought. I didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang is very loyal. Knowing that it is a dead end, she still went. Indeed, but today she has to be removed from Penglai Palace. He Yunjun hugged Chu Yunshang and smiled faintly. Have you noticed the movements of Di Baichen? Bailey Hongzhuang didn't ask for help, did she? Chu Yunshang couldn't help but ask. Although these guys are not Yunyao's opponent, Bailey Hongzhuang has made a great contribution to Penglai Palace. If the palace master knows that Yunyao killed Bailey Hongzhuang, it will not be good for Yunyao's development here. He Yunjun nodded. Don't worry. I've sent people to monitor their movements. Bailey Hongzhuang did leave alone. If they left, we would have received the news. However, since Yunyao is now fighting with Bailey Hongzhuang, even if they rush over now, it's already too late. Hearing this, Chu Yunshang's smile widened. That's true. We don't need to worry. As the two attacks collided, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure quickly retreated. She had been paying attention to Shangguan Yingying's situation. After seeing that Shangguan Yingying had successfully left the battle area, she was relieved. However, Chu Yunyao was not a fool. It was not easy for them to disappear from Chu Yunyao's sight. The smoke and dust gradually dissipated. Chu Yunyao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with disdain. It's really hard for you to care about the safety of Shangguan Yingying at this time. Chapter 37-32. Do you think you can escape from my hands just like that? Chu Yunyao's eyes were filled with ridicule, and her voice was full of ridicule. Dream on. From the moment she lured Bailey Hongzhuang here, she had no intention of letting Bailey Hongzhuang return alive. Therefore, even though the sky was filled with smoke and dust just now, her spiritual power had always been locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang made any movements to escape, she would be the first to discover it. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced coldly at Chu Yunyao. That cold gaze had already explained everything. As long as my spiritual power is locked onto you, your every move can't escape my eyes unless you can defeat me head-on. But obviously that's impossible. Chu Yunyao's lips curled up slightly. You should have suffered quite a bit of injury from that attack just now, right? But you still have to pretend that you're fine. It's really been hard on you. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly and forcibly suppressed the taste of blood in her mouth. Just as Chu Yunyao said, the difference in cultivation between them was not small. Even if she used the seven-colored glazed pagoda, she was still not Chu Yunyao's opponent. Under the collision between the two, she suffered serious internal injuries. Hongzhuang, how are you? Shangguan Yingying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang worriedly. Although Bailey Hongzhuang did not show any abnormalities on the surface, it could be seen from her gradually pale face that her current condition was definitely not good. 9th level Purple Realm, this was stronger than any opponent they had encountered before. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her right hand, indicating that Shangguan Yingying did not need to worry. Yingying, you should rest for a while. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang who was holding on, Shangguan Yingying felt a burst of guilt and annoyance in her heart. If she still had the strength to fight, she could at least fight side by side with Bailey Hongzhuang. It was a pity that Chu Yunyao had already expected such a situation and did not give her the slightest chance. Now that her internal injuries were severe, it was already not easy for her to stand up. It was obviously impossible for her to fight. As if she had guessed Shangguan Yingying's thoughts, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say, Yingying, don't worry about me. Go and rest first. Their eyes met, and Shangguan Yingying immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's idea. They had to find a chance to escape. However, Chu Yunyao was also very treacherous. She had been observing them with her spiritual power. If Chu Yunyao kept doing this, then their plan would not work at all. This was really dangerous. The secret of the Chaos Ring could not be exposed. Even if they died, they could not leave the Chaos Ring to Chu Yunyao. You two are really sisters. Chu Yunyao clicked her tongue. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are already at death's door, but you still care about Shangguan Yingying. It seems that I have really underestimated your greatness. Chu Yunyao, don't mock me here. You haven't defeated me yet. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. As a 9th-level Purple Realm cultivator, you can't defeat me even after releasing such a martial skill. At this moment you are still complacent. I admire your ability to comfort yourself. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Chu Yunyao's expression suddenly changed, and her eyes suddenly became sharp. I wanted to let you live a little longer. Since you are eager to die, I will fulfill your wish. Chapter 37-33. Chu Yunyao flipped her hands again, and the yuan qi in her body flowed along her hands into the seal. Judging from the complexity of the seal and the fluctuations it emitted, it was obvious that her attack this time was more terrifying than the previous one. Hong Zhuang. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but call out after noticing this. Chu Yunyao's strength was really too powerful. She had experienced this since she was captured yesterday. With Bailey Hongzhuang's current situation, it would be terrible if she received this attack again. Her deep black eyes flashed with determination and persistence. Yingying, we can only try our best. At this point, she had no other choice but to try her best. However, at this moment, there was a sudden sound of footsteps from behind. Listening to the sound of footsteps, the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two changed, and there was a burst of surprise in their heart. Bailey Hongzhuang, you brought people here? Chu Yunyao's face suddenly darkened, and her sharp eyes shot straight at Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't want anyone to know that she was the one who plotted against Bailey Hongzhuang. If someone else came, then this matter would undoubtedly be exposed. At the same time, there was also a trace of surprise in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. She didn't know who had come. A glimmer of hope flashed in Shangguan Yingying's eyes. As long as someone came to help, then they would be able to escape. How do I know if you brought people here? Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Hearing this, Chu Yunyao sneered. Do I need to find help to deal with a guy like you? What a joke. The three immediately stopped fighting, and their attention was focused on the rear. At this time, a shout was heard. Hongzhuang. Yingying, hearing this familiar voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying's eyes lit up, because the intertwined voices belonged to Di Beichen and Xiren. However, judging from the sound of the footsteps, it was clear that Di Beichen and Xiren were not the only ones who had come. After learning who the other party was, Chu Yunyao's face turned extremely ugly, and she couldn't help but feel annoyed. Before she came, she had clearly told Chu Yunshang to help keep an eye on the movements of Di Beichen and others. She must not let them leave. She did not expect that now they would come to her door. How could this not make her angry? Bailey Hongzhuang, consider yourself lucky this time. Chu Yunyao gave Bailey Hongzhuang a fierce look. Her pretty face was full of unwillingness, but there was nothing she could do. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a sneer. Next time, I'm afraid your luck won't be so good. Humph. Next time, you will definitely die in my hands. Chu Yunyao snorted coldly. Her figure flashed and she quickly left. Looking at Chu Yunyao's departing figure, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. If Di Beichen and others did not arrive in time, then the two of them were indeed in a dangerous situation. Soon, Di Beichen and Wen Xiren came to Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying's side. After seeing that Shangguan Yingying was still alive, both of them were relieved. However, after noticing the terrible injuries on Shangguan Yingying's body, Xiren suddenly burst into anger. Chapter 37-34. Xiren was so heartbroken that he was about to go crazy. Shangguan Yingying had been with him since she was a child. Although she had been cultivating very hard since she was a child, her journey had been very smooth and there had not been many twists and turns. Ever since she came to Penglai Island, Shangguan Yingying had begun to suffer. She had never thought that this time she would be directly kidnapped and tortured like this. The shocking wounds and bloodstains seemed to be imprinted on his heart. At the same time, his hatred for Chu Yunyao had reached the extreme. Does it hurt? Ziren couldn't help but ask. Shangguan Yingying held Ziren's hand and said, Ziren, I'm fine. You don't have to worry. At the same time, Di Beichen also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's pale face. With just a slight perception, he already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had suffered heavy injuries. Wife, your internal injuries are very serious. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. It's fine. By the way, why are you here? This was what surprised her the most. Before coming, she clearly didn't tell Di Beichen and the others. How could they come so quickly? Originally, she planned to let Xiao He tell Di Beichen and the others, but she also knew that Chu Yunshang and the others must be watching their actions closely. If Di Beichen and the others left, then Chu Yunshang would definitely notice it at the first moment. In this way, the matter would be even more difficult to solve. If Shangguan Yingying was in any danger, that would be the worst. Since Di Beichen and the others couldn't leave at all, she simply didn't say anything about it. Otherwise, Di Beichen and the others would definitely not let her come alone after knowing about it, and the situation would become extremely complicated. It was just that she didn't expect Di Beichen and the others to come, and so quickly. Hearing this, Di Beichen's expression was a bit mysterious. It's a long story. I'll tell you slowly later. Now we have to hide first. Chu Yunyao will be back soon. With Di Beichen's voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying were both stunned and couldn't help but ask, why? Now that Senior Brother Ren and the others are here, Chu Yunyao is not willing to expose her identity. She will not come out. After all, even if Chu Yunyao's strength was very powerful, she was not sure to kill all of them in a short time. Senior Brother Ren and the others didn't come. Those people are the cultivators we found outside the Penglai Palace. They just wanted to trick Chu Yunyao, but it's obvious that she has been fooled. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes wide open. And the others to be. After Chu Yunyao left quickly, she didn't go too far. She wanted to see who it was. In this way, she would know who Bailey Hongzhuang's helpers were in the future. However, when she saw who it was, she couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Because the people who came here were not the cultivators of Penglai Inner Palace at all. These were clearly some motley crew outside Penglai Palace. After seeing this scene, Chu Yunyao immediately understood that she had been tricked by Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. She was fooled like this. Thinking of this, she immediately turned back. Chapter 37-35. Damn it! Chu Yunyao's face was full of anger. I was cheated by them with such a little trick. An indescribable anger surged in her heart. She wondered why Bailey Hongzhuang had always been so confident. It turned out that she had thought of using this method to cheat her, but she had been tricked. He didn't need to think about it to know that Bailey Hongzhuang must be extremely proud right now. This was originally a losing situation, but she was so easily fooled. Thinking of this, Chu Yunyao was so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. In the next moment, Chu Yunyao returned to Green Mountain as fast as she could. However, when she arrived, there was no trace of Bailey Hongzhuang. It's only been a short time since I left. I'd like to see how far they can run. Chu Yunyao snorted coldly, and the killing intent in her eyes grew stronger. At this moment, after being ridiculed, she couldn't wait to kill them. She didn't believe that these two women could run out of her hands. As long as they didn't return to Penglai Palace, she could continue to hunt them down. However, the next scene was beyond Chu Yunyao's expectation. She searched the whole Green Mountain, but she didn't find any trace of Bailey Hongzhuang. These two people seemed to have disappeared out of thin air, leaving no trace. Impossible! Chu Yunyao's face was extremely ugly. How short was the time she left before? It was not enough time for Bailey Hongzhuang and others to go down the mountain, but why didn't she find any clues? In an instant, Chu Yunyao searched the whole mountain up and down again, as if she had gone crazy. The final result told her that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had really escaped like this. How could this be? Standing under Green Mountain, Chu Yunyao's face was a little stupefied. She kept thinking about what the problem was, but she couldn't figure it out. She was almost depressed to death. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are lucky this time. Next time, I will kill you with my own hands. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were currently in the primal chaos ring. They also discovered that Chu Yunyao was quickly rushing back and quickly entered the primal chaos ring. Chu Yunyao really came back. Shangguan Yingying sighed. Fortunately, we have a heaven-defying divine artifact like the chaos ring. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to escape today. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and turned her clear black eyes to Di Beichen. Her tone was a little surprised. Did you find those people from the foot of the mountain? Di Beichen smiled and nodded. Yes, we were in a hurry. It just so happens that there are always a lot of people outside the Penglai Palace, so we spent some spirit stones to ask them to accompany us up the mountain. I really didn't expect you to even think of this point. Chu Yunyao only thought that many cultivators in the inner hall had come and was worried that her identity would be discovered, so she hurriedly left. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. This move had completely grasped Chu Yunyao's weakness. If not, it was obviously impossible for Chu Yunyao to leave like this. Chapter 37-36. As Ziren said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two fixed their gazes on Di Beichen. They all wanted to know when Di Beichen had made such a decision. Since Chu Yunyao had spent so much effort to have you come alone, she obviously didn't want others to know that she was the one who attacked you. Otherwise, she could have done it directly in the Penglai Palace. As such, I think this trick should work on her. However, this trick can only scare her away temporarily. She will react soon. Fortunately, we have the Ring of Chaos, so we can neutralize it perfectly, Di Beichen explained with a faint smile. Then how did you know that I came here alone? And how did you know that I came to Green Mountain? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes glinted with bewilderment. She had deceived Di Beichen on purpose before, so she had no idea how Di Beichen found out. Seeing the curious expression on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, Di Beichen couldn't help but rub her hair affectionately, saying with an affectionate smile, I have been with you for such a long time, don't I know you well enough? Just by looking at your subtle expressions, I can tell what you're thinking. Since you came back from Chu Yunyao's residence, the expression on your face has changed. Though you tried your best to hide it, I could still tell that you were in a bad mood. So, I asked Xiao Bai. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was taken aback. She looked at Xiao Bai in surprise and asked, Did Xiao Bai tell you? Di Beichen nodded slightly. Xiao Bai was worried about you, so she told me the details after I asked. Master, I did this because I was worried about you. Xiao Bai raised her hands, her face full of guilt. Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hongzhuang over and said, Xiao Bai is not as talkative as Xiao He. She can keep the secret. Xiao He, who had been amazed by Xiao Bai's cunning mind, suddenly changed her expression after hearing Di Beichen's words. Di Beichen, are you belittling me? You have different personalities, each of you has your own good points, Di Beichen said with a faint smile. Xiao He curled her lips. Although your comfort is very perfunctory, I still accept it. After learning the specific situation from Xiao Bai, I did not stop you from leaving. At the same time, I was also trying to avoid the attention of Chu Yunshang and others. Then I communicated with senior brother Ren and cooperated with them to put on a show. Then Ziren and I left Penglai Palace smoothly. After understanding all this, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but give Di Beichen a thumbs up. Beichen, I really admire you. You are really amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang also sighed in her heart. She thought she had concealed it well, but she didn't expect to be easily seen through by Di Beichen. On the contrary, she didn't realize that Di Beichen had found out. As if seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts, Di Beichen's eyes were deep and charming. You were worried about Yingying's safety and how to deal with Chu Yunyao. Naturally, you didn't pay much attention to my expression. I can't beat you in terms of acting, but fortunately you came. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for me to take Yingying away. Yes, if something happened to Hong Zhuang because of me, I would be a sinner. Fortunately, Shangguan Yingying's face showed a relieved smile, but before she could speak, she had fainted. Chapter 37. Yingying. Ziren shook Shangguan Yingying in his arms, but the latter did not respond at all. Seeing this, when Ziren's face could not help but turn pale, and his black eyes were filled with worry. Let me take a look at Yingying. Bailey Hongzhuang took Shangguan Yingying's hand and carefully felt her pulse. After a while, she let go of Shangguan Yingying's hand. Hongzhuang, how is Yingying? When Ziren looked at Bailey Hongzhuang worriedly, his heart was already in his throat. Ever since he knew that Shangguan Yingying had been taken away, his heart had been tightly clenched, and he was so nervous and uncomfortable that he almost suffocated. This feeling was not relieved until he saw with his own eyes that Shangguan Yingying was still alive, but now that Shangguan Yingying was in a coma, his emotions were immediately drawn out again. Ziren, Yingying's injuries are indeed very serious. Not only are there serious external injuries, but there are also internal injuries. Obviously, Chu Yunyao has been torturing her since yesterday. As soon as these words came out, Ziren's heart sank. Although he was not a doctor, he could see how bad Shangguan Yingying's situation was from her expression. He thought that since yesterday until now, Shangguan Yingying must have felt like a year. Then is she all right? Will she be okay? Don't worry, although her injuries are serious, she only needs to recuperate for a period of time to recover. Phew! When Ziren breathed a sigh of relief. He was almost suffocating before. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the healing medicine and a medicinal pill and handed it to Ziren, saying, "Apply the healing medicine on her wounds first, then give this medicinal pill to her. She will wake up when she feels better." Ziren took the things and nodded, "Okay. Wife, your injuries are not light now. You should heal them first." Di Beichen asked with concern. He had noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's pale face the moment he saw her. Presumably, her injuries were not light. Hearing Di Beichen's words of concern, Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her lips and smiled. "Okay, I'll heal myself first. Let's stay on Green Mountain for the time being. We'll leave after we've recovered," Di Beichen said. Chu Yunyao returned to the Penglai Palace angrily. After she learned that it was Di Beichen and Wen Ziren who went to save Bailey Hongzhuang. "Sister, didn't I ask you to help me keep an eye on Di Beichen? Why did you let them leave?" As soon as she returned to her residence, Chu Yunyao yelled at Chu Yunshang with dissatisfaction. Chu Yunshang frowned. Di Beichen and the others left? He Yunjuan's face was also a little surprised. After seeing Chu Yunyao's unhappy expression, he couldn't help asking, "Did you fail?" When I was about to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen and the others suddenly brought a group of people over. I thought they were the cultivators of the inner palace of Penglai. I didn't want to be discovered by them, so I left quickly. I didn't expect that it was a group of cultivators they found from outside. I fell into their trap. Didn't I tell you before I left not to let them have a chance to leave? Now Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have escaped. Next time, they will definitely be on guard against me. It won't be so easy to find another opportunity to attack. Chapter 37-38. With Chu Yunshang's voice falling, He Yunjun also nodded. It seems to be the case. In that case, Bailey Hongzhuang and others are really very smart. They even deceived our people. They can think of this way to let Yunyao leave. They are indeed very smart. They deserve to be the people favored by Lord Long. Chu Yunshang's eyes were a bit complicated. "Yunyao, what do you think of Bailey Hongzhuang's strength after fighting with her?" "Her strength is naturally not as good as mine." Chu Yunyao rolled her eyes and curled her lips. "Her cultivation is not as good as yours. Naturally, her strength can't be compared with yours. I'm asking you what you think of her fighting strength." Chu Yunshang looked helpless and then emphasized, "Guest point of view, tell the truth." Looking at Chu Yunshang's serious face, although Chu Yunyao was very unhappy, she still said, Her fighting strength is much stronger than the ordinary 6th level Purple Realm cultivator. Even if I make a move, I can't kill her easily. Hearing this, Chu Yunshang's face also showed a look of understanding. Since they can be so favored by Lord Long, there must be enough reasons. I don't know why you are fighting with Bailey Hongzhuang this time, but I still want to remind you that for this kind of opponent with great potential, you must solve it as soon as possible. Otherwise, once she grows up, you will be in trouble. I could have solved her today. If you didn't keep an eye on Di Baichen and others, how could you give Bailey Hongzhuang such a chance? Chu Yunyao's face was full of anger. Originally, all of this was under her control. She didn't expect such a thing to happen in the end. She was so angry. Seeing Chu Yunyao's accusatory look, Chu Yunshang's face also became cold. Yunyao, I am not in the mood to accompany you. Today's matter is indeed my negligence, but you are not qualified to blame me. If you have time, you might as well spend more energy on cultivation. All day long, you only think about causing trouble. No wonder your cultivation speed is slower. After the voice fell, Chu Yunshang was too lazy to talk more with Chu Yunyao. She turned around and called He Yunjun to leave together. Let's go. Looking at Chu Yunshang's back, Chu Yunyao's anger in her heart was even stronger, but she could only suppress it. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang's internal injuries were completely healed, and her pretty face regained its usual color. Ziren, how is Yingying? As soon as she woke up, Bailey Hongzhuang went to care about Shangguan Yingying's situation. Yingying has already woken up. The healing medicine is very effective. Her external injuries are healing very quickly. However, she is currently in seclusion to heal her internal injuries, Wen Ziren said with a smile. Seeing the smile on Wen Ziren's face again, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was also happy. This was in line with Wen Ziren's temperament. His previous gloomy face really made people feel uncomfortable. Yunyao. Yinjing. Yunyao. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes, which were full of fierceness. This crazy woman had done such a hateful thing. The reason why Shangguan Yingying was tortured like this was entirely because of her. Because she was her friend, and because she helped her snatch the Cloud Spirit Fruit, she was treated like this by Yunyao. Chapter 37-39. Shangguan Yingying was usually so lively. Thinking that Shangguan Yingying was treated like this because of her, not only did Shangguan Yingying want her to leave at that dangerous moment, she even felt that Shangguan Yingying was dragging her down. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a wave of pain in her heart. In the end, the cause of this matter was entirely her. She couldn't help but think of the words that Shangguan Yingying said to her when she came back from the resource hall. She felt that she was dragging her down and only hoped that she wouldn't cause trouble. However, Shangguan Yingying like this, let alone Wen Ziren, even she felt sorry for her. It's just a Yunling fruit. This Chu Yunyao is really too domineering. Di Baichen's eyes were deep and cold, and his voice was also very cold. When Ziren nodded, this woman is really domineering. According to this judgment, as long as someone takes a fancy to what she wants from the resource hall in the future, she will take revenge on them. This woman likes to cause trouble too much, doesn't she? Looking at Di Baichen and Wen Ziren's speechless expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say, in fact, she didn't treat me like this just because of the Yunling fruit. The bigger reason is Duan Huali. As soon as these words came out, Di Baichen and Wen Xinya were both stunned. Duan Huali? They really didn't think of this possibility. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. Chu Yunyao likes Duan Huali. Coincidentally, she met Duan Huali in the resource hall that day, so I didn't expect it to be so coincidental. Di Baichen and Wen Ziren immediately understood. I really didn't expect that someone like Duan Huali would still like him. I also find it hard to understand. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands. Chu Yunyao seems to like Duan Huali to a very crazy extent. I think she has targeted many of the women that Duan Huali like. No wonder Duan Huali is such a playboy. Di Beichen's lips curled into a devilish smile as he spoke. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Why? Duan Huali likes one person and Chu Yunyao kills one person. Doesn't that mean he can only like one more person? The more you fall in love with someone else, the more fickle you become. I suddenly feel that it makes sense. When Ziren nodded and gave Di Beichen a thumbs up. I'm beginning to understand Duan Huali. Pfft. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh out loud. Regarding this, she also sympathized with Duan Huali. 2 days later, Shangguan Yingying had also recovered her usual vigor and her injuries had completely healed. Since Yingying has recovered, let's set off for the magic training tower. Di Beichen said with a smile. He originally wanted to set off a few days ago, but he didn't expect that there would be such a setback midway, delaying him for a few days. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. We won't return to the Penglai Palace and we'll leave directly. However, we have to send a message to Senior Brother Ren and the others to let them know that we are safe and sound so that they can rest assured. However, at this moment, Ziren suddenly said, Di Beichen, Hongzhuang, I want to bring Yingying back. Go back? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. Go back where? Back to the Cloud Sword sect. With that said, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other, seeing the astonishment in each other's eyes. Chapter 3740. Hearing this, when Ziren turned his head to look at Shangguan Yingying and said, You have always lived well in the Cloud Sword sect. This time, you accompanied me on an adventure, but I didn't take good care of you, and I was even powerless. I don't want to see you endure this anymore. Why don't you return to the Cloud Sword sect? You can also live a more comfortable life. In the past, when Ziren had always felt that it was no big deal to come to the Penglai Island to train, but this time, the matter really touched his nerve. Even though the matter was over now, he still couldn't help but feel afraid. Fortunately, nothing happened to Shangguan Yingying. If something happened, then he really couldn't bear it. He also wanted to immediately kill Chu Yunyao to avenge Shangguan Ying, but the difference in strength between the two of them made him an example. It was precisely because of this that he felt even more pain. He wanted to protect Shangguan Yingying well, and before he had enough strength, he chose to let Shangguan Yingying be in a safe environment. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. In the past few days, as Shangguan Yingying's injuries gradually recovered, they had always thought that Ziren's emotions had recovered. They didn't expect that this matter had already deeply rooted in Ziren's heart, so he made such a decision. Regarding this, they could understand, so they couldn't say anything to refuse. After all, the reason why Ziren accompanied them was because of Di Beichen's cursed body. Now that the problem of the cursed body had been solved, they could indeed go back. Ziren, if you've thought it through, I don't object. Di Beichen said slowly. He could understand Ziren's emotions. Because he cared too much, he didn't want his beloved to be hurt in the slightest, just like how he felt when facing Bailey Hongzhuang. Ziren looked deeply at Di Beichen. Beichen, I'm sorry. You are already very loyal to me by accompanying me to Penglai Island. Why do you need to apologize to me? Di Beichen patted Ziren's shoulder. I understand you. However, Shangguan Yingying quickly said, I don't want to go back. Yingying, when Ziren frowned. This place is truly too dangerous. Let's return to the Cloudward sect. Ziren, I know you're doing this for my own good, but I don't want to go. Shangguan Yingying's attitude was very firm. When I was in the Cloud Sword sect, I was indeed very safe. But ever since I came to Penglai Island, I understood what the life of a cultivator is. Although it was full of danger, it was also full of opportunities. I liked this kind of life. I liked the feeling of improving myself. I also liked fighting alongside Hongzhuang and the others. Although I was injured this time because of Chu Yunyao's design, it was also because of my negligence. If I had paid more attention, I wouldn't have fallen into his trap. I've learned from my mistakes. I won't make the same mistake again in the future. If I leave just because I encountered danger once, that would be a sign of cowardice. Looking at Shangguan Yingying's confident appearance, Ziren frowned and said, Yingying, if it weren't for your good luck this time, you might have already lost your life. So what? Shangguan Yingying asked, Aren't I still alive and well? But there are too many dangers here. Being lucky this time doesn't mean that you will be lucky next time. Chapter 3741. Shangguan Yingying's eyes burned as she looked at Wen Ziren, and her eyes were filled with persistence and determination. Ziren, I understand you. Compared to the peaceful life in the Cloudsword sect, you prefer the life here on Penglai Island. Just as you want me to be happy, I also want you to be able to live the life you like. Most importantly, I want to fight side by side with you and improve together. If you take me away like this, then it will be a knot in my heart for the rest of my life. I won't be happy. Hearing Shangguan Yingying's words, the surprise in Ziren's eyes grew stronger and stronger. Obviously, he didn't expect Shangguan Yingying's attitude to be so resolute. This kind of her was clearly different from the person he knew before. Looking at the scene before them, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and didn't say anything. This was a matter between husband and wife. No matter what decision was made, they would support it. Yingying, are you sure? Ziren stared at Shangguan Yingying. Don't force yourself. Shangguan Yingying nodded. I'm sure. However, Ziren fell into silence. After looking at Shangguan Yingying for a long time, he nodded and said, Okay, since you've already decided, then we'll stay. Shangguan Yingying's face instantly bloomed with a smile. Ziren, thank you. Yingying, it's me who needs to thank you. Ziren's gaze was gentle and doting, and there was a trace of heartache in the depths of his eyes. His Yingying had always been the pearl in Cloud Sword sect that was protected by them. It was only after coming to Penglai Island that she suffered so much. He watched Yingying improve bit by bit and become stronger and stronger. His heart was shocked, and everything Shangguan Yingying did was to accompany him in his adventures. With a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? If you two continue to show off your love like this, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave today. Seeing Ziren and Shangguan Yingying looking at each other affectionately for a long time, Di Beichen couldn't help but speak out. Only then did Wen Ziren and Shangguan Yingying retract their gazes. Shangguan Yingying's pretty face blushed. She looked shy and embarrassed. In contrast, Wen Ziren was very calm. Don't you and Hongzhuang often show off your love in front of us? Could it be that only you are allowed to show off and we are not allowed to? Di Beichen spread out his hands. I don't mind you showing off your love every day, but it's not bad to show it while walking. Ha ha, Ziren chuckled. It was obvious that after solving the problem in his heart, he was in a very good mood. Bailey Hongzhuang sent Xiao Bai out to inquire. After knowing that Chu Yunyao did not come to the Green Mountain to check again, the four of them did not delay and immediately set off. Outside the Penglai Palace, they found someone to send a message to Ren Ziheng and then directly stepped on the road to the Demon Training Tower. When Ren Ziheng and the others found out that Di Beichen and the others did not return, but Chu Yunyao returned safely, they had been very worried in their hearts, worried that something had happened to Di Beichen and the other three. However, after receiving the news from Di Beichen, they were relieved. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three returned to the Demon Training Tower with ease. However, just as they were about to board the ship at the dock, they suddenly saw an unexpected figure. Ao Lingxiao, how did I meet you here? Chapter 3742. Ao Lingxiao obviously noticed the change in Shangguan Yingying's attitude and couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. Seeing that you're safe and sound, I'm relieved. I thought you were dealt with by Chu Yunyao. I won't go to see the King of Hell so easily. Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows. No matter what, I still have to thank you this time. It's really not easy to hear you personally thank me. Ao Lingxiao sighed, then said, Are you guys going to the Demon Training Tower now? He had already heard of this news before, but when he found out that Di Baichen and the others were safe and sound, he realized that they must have just set off for the demon training tower, so he immediately rushed to the dock. That's right. Di Baichen nodded. This matter was not a secret. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Ao Lingxiao's face. Coincidentally, I'm also going to the demon training tower. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three couldn't help but look at each other, and a hint of surprise appeared on their faces at the same time. They didn't expect Ao Lingxiao to also want to go to the demon training tower. It was obvious that Ao Lingxiao didn't want to go himself, but knew that they were going, so he decided to go with them. Otherwise, he would have stayed in the Penglai Palace for such a long time. It seemed that Ao Lingxiao was prepared to be a follower to the end. Do you guys mind if I go with you? Ao Lingxiao didn't realize that he had become a follower at all. His face had a bright smile, looking extremely friendly. The four of them were speechless, but they still nodded and agreed. Although their acquaintance was somewhat inexplicable, and Ao Lingxiao's identity was also a mystery in their eyes, but putting aside the sense of mystery, they were quite friendly with each other. Especially after this matter, Ao Lingxiao, who had always ignored others, was doing his best to help them find Shangguan Yingying, so they didn't have any reason to refuse. As a result, the original group of 4 became a group of 5. A small boat slowly sailed in the direction of the demon training island. Previously, when I saw Chu Yunyao come back alone and there was no news of the 4 of you, I thought that you had encountered some danger. Today, after knowing that you are safe and sound, I am relieved. Ao Lingxiao said. Shangguan Yingying glanced at Ao Lingxiao and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to be so concerned about us. Of course, I'm not completely sure yet. If something happened to you guys, wouldn't I be very depressed? Ao Lingxiao raised his eyebrows. His expression was extremely natural. Speaking of which, I'm a little curious about how you survived from Chu Yunyao's hands. That woman's attack is like a thunderbolt. There are very few people who can survive her attack. Ao Lingxiao curiously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. In his opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang went to rescue Shangguan Yingying alone. This was simply courting death. However, the 4 of them came back safe and sound. On the contrary, Chu Yunyao was defeated. It was really unbelievable. You want to know? When Ziren asked with a smile. Ao Lingxiao nodded. I won't tell you. When Ziren shrugged his shoulders. Ao Lingxiao had been keeping them in suspense, so he also wanted to keep Ao Lingxiao in suspense. Ao Lingxiao rolled his eyes. His speechless expression made Bailey Hongzhuang and the others chuckle. The atmosphere was extremely harmonious.